Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Mixed Texan Reports. If you have not done so, please subscribe to my channel. And if you watched the whole video, hit that like button. So I want to talk about Portland, Oregon. We're going back to the Northwest City because there's a lot of bad things happening in places like this, Seattle, Portland. And so I want to touch on this a little bit more. I have a video for you guys today. It's pretty long. Well, it's 4 minutes long. So it's going to talk about some of the homeless issues that are happening in Portland and how it's affecting the residents there. It's 4 minutes long, like I said. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now let's get started here.
I'm living in a nightmare neighborhood.
It's really scary.
For years, these neighbors have been watching the city's homeless crisis spread across parts of southeast Portland. Now it's right outside their front door.
I want to cry. I just want my house back.
Christina Hartnett lives on 80th and Powell, where a majority of the campers stay.
My lawn is now becoming a public bathroom.
She fears leaving her house just to go to work.
And it is scary when you have grown men meth raging in your driveway. The last thing I feel safe doing is going out and saying, hey, can you please move so I can go to work?
Calling the police and city is an everyday chore with little reward.
So far, no one has come to help us.
Central City Concern Clean Start crews assessed this site Thursday. It was one of about 1,900 other campsites reported just this week. In the past 10 days, they found 272 encampments that pose a greater health and safety risk, which is why they haven't removed the camps in this neighborhood. But just getting the city to come out and assess it has been a full-time job.
I have to report from like four different bureaus, and then I have to report that report to a report, and then I have to report that report to a second report, and it's the only way to get any kind of traction.
I feel like nobody hears us. Nobody cares about us.
This mother didn't want to be identified on camera, afraid of retaliation from those living on the streets. She rarely lets her children outside to play.
It's very sad. Because they're just kids, so they want to play.
I don't know where they're coming from.
Tess has lived in this neighborhood for 35 years. These boards now cover her front door windows after they were smashed by those living on the streets. She also installed security cameras around her house.
Scared. Most of all scared because I don't know what they're going to go next.
It's also affecting a nearby restaurant.
I've come into the bathroom and found people standing there in their underwear, scrubbing up in the sink in a sports bar in the bathroom. It unnerves our customers when they pull in and they see people overdosing on the sidewalks out in front of our restaurant.
I sleep right here in the back seat.
Jennifer Suprick is 43 years old.
I'm an addict, and my family doesn't condone it.
She lives in this broken down van on the Southeast Powell Boulevard frontage road.
So I just lay the seats down and we climb in the back.
It's one of the areas neighbors are afraid to go.
I mean, we can coexist. It's just a matter of some homeless people they're resentful towards the neighborhood because of the way they treat them.
I think that it's not always what it seems. You know, we aren't always what we seem.
Brendan Harvey has spent most of his life in and out of homelessness.
So usually it has something to do with relapse. And after a relapse, you know, my housing usually falls out from under me, and then I usually have nowhere to turn.
He understands why neighbors are frustrated.
So I feel like they have a right to be upset.
He's seen firsthand the increase in violence from some of the campers.
I feel like it's just gotten more bold, more rash. You know, people aren't as afraid to do things that are, you know, have to do with criminality.
It is going to take one of us getting severely hurt or killed before they will do anything to come help us.
Meanwhile,
please come help me.
Does our city do something about it? Are they doing something about these people that need some help?
this never-ending cry for help continues.
It's just been going on so long now that we're all over it. They're over it, we're over it, everybody's over it.
Now, the city only has the resources to remove about 50 encampments a week, and they say that they assess each report about 48 hours after they get it, and they receive hundreds of reports for high-risk camps every day. Ashley?
Yeah, Blair, you feel for everybody there. Thank you.
Now, real quick, that news reporter is a beautiful woman. My wife doesn't watch my videos, so I'm not worried about it. It's just locker room talk, everybody. So anyway, that's crazy how you see the behind the news reporter, behind the attractive woman, there's somebody, riding across her on a little thing, and you see it's like a homeless, encampment, whatever, behind her. It's crazy. So I feel bad for that little lady, the little Asian lady. She's been in her house for, her neighborhood for 35 years. She's probably retired, and it looks like she's pleading for help. It's actually pretty sad. I do feel for that lady. She's had to board up her windows and put security cameras. Nobody should have to live like that. But I do wonder if how many of these people that were interviewed voted for this nonsense or failed to vote against it. That measure 110 was voted in by 58% of the people who voted in that election, who voted for it. So I don't know where they stand, what their political ideology is, but if you voted for it or failed to do anything about it, you are a part of the problem. You are a part of the blame. I'm not wishing anything bad on anybody, but some people need to bear responsibility for things that happen. Elections have consequences, and not paying attention to what's going on, the type of things that are going on in your city or your state, and it's important. It's important to do so, and failing to do so had disastrous consequences like this right here. People's lawns being used as a public restroom, people being afraid to go to work. I do not want to live like that. Nobody wants to live that way. That's why law and order is so important. So what else is going on in Portland? Portland resembles an open-air drug market after decriminalizing hard drugs. Overdose deaths skyrocket by 41% in the Democrat-led city as homeless addicts collapse on sidewalks. This is from the Daily Mail. So these are there are some photos here that have become as a result of this. So since the measure was passed, overdose deaths in the state hit an all-time high in 2021 with 1,069, a 41% increase from 2020. Let's take a look at some pictures here. As we see here, the ballot measure 110, which passed with 58.8% of support, decriminalized hard drugs in the Democrat-run state. You see people here shooting up drugs, passed out in broad daylight, sticking needles in their legs. This goes on right in the open. People, looking all crazy on the sidewalks. Yeah. A person found with personal amounts of heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, and other drugs receives a citation like a traffic ticket, with the maximum of $100 fine waived if they call a hotline for health assessment. Yeah, so it's like getting a traffic ticket. And you can get that waived. This is the type of things that are happening in Democrat-run cities. These people, like I said, they live in a fairy tale land. It's like a fantasy land. Everybody can do drugs. You can use the city as a public restroom. Everybody is equal. We're all equal. Everybody use drug. You use drugs. You use drugs. It's okay. Everybody can do it. Hey, you won't go to jail. Don't worry about it. You just get a slap on the wrist. That's the way these people think. They don't want to crack down on drug use and gang violence and things like that. It's crazy. So here are more pictures right here. The streets of Portland are filled with open drug use, the homeless using and buying hard drugs during the day. Look at that. I mean, this is some third world stuff right here. This is actually happening in America. Yeah. Then it goes on to show some pictures of, here you go. Here's a bunch of tents right here. I'm sorry, this is just ridiculous. So let's take a look at the new possession limits. Under the new Oregon law that went into effect in February 2021, offenders caught with the following drug amounts can avoid criminal charges: less than 1 gram of heroin, less than 1 gram of, less than 5 pills of MDMA, less than 2 grams of methamphetamine, less than 40 units of LSD, less than 12 grams of, I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry, I'm sure it's bad, less than 40 units of methadone, less than 40 pills of oxycodone, less than 2 grams of cocaine. So a gram of cocaine, 39 pills, all good. That's a lot. Offenders caught with the following amounts of drugs will be charged with misdemeanor simple possession rather than a felony: 1 to 3 grams of heroin, 1 to 4 grams of MDA, 2 to 8 grams of methamphetamine, 2 to 8 grams of cocaine. So let's dig into here. There's a little bit more. So Portland has seen an uptick in homicides. As you can see this graph here, it was stayed about 30 homicides a year or less from 2002 to 2018, and you see things went up right around here. Is it 2019, 2020, skyrocketed. 2021, 88 homicides. I wonder why. So here we go. 144% increase in the counts of homicide incidents, 241% increase in counts of non-fatal injury shootings, 207% increase in the city of Portland. That is out of control. So about 70% of victims and suspects have prior criminal justice system involvement. Just over 61% of victims and suspects had prior probation or post-prison supervision, and about 9% were on active probation or post-prison supervision. About 58% of victims had suspects had prior felony conviction. So the thing is that these people are being released back into the streets. They're not punishing these people hard enough, as I should say. Now, this is the same study right here, but I'm going to read something that's very telling. The study found that the majority of suspects in both non-fatal shooting and homicide cases had been arrested previously and were known to the criminal justice system, as I previously stated. Homicide suspects had been arrested an average of 6 times prior to a killing, while suspects in the shooting had been arrested an average of 8 times. Yes, so these people have been arrested time and time again, 6 and 8 times. So that tells you that law and order is not being enforced in the city of Oregon, and particularly in the state of Portland. I have some more video for you guys. Check this out. Oregon's drug decriminalization a giant failure. Yes, it is. Now look at that hero right there, that dog, the canine. Huge drug bust right there, which has become quite common in the city of Portland. So this article says from Next News, as I stated, in November of 2020, 58% of Portland voters passed Measure 110, the Drug Addiction Treatment and Recovery Act, to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of hard drugs such as heroin, meth, cocaine, and fentanyl. As a result, the use of hard drugs has actually increased in the state, according to law enforcement. Oregon now ranks the second highest U.S. state for substance abuse. Almost 1 in 5 adults are now addicted to drugs, and the experiment to decriminalize them is a notable failure. Now, check this out. I'm going to play a clip from this video here. There's an officer who talks about this.
Are fentanyl.
And it's everywhere. It's everybody we contact. I have a couple of cases that are back-to-back cases we did this week. And in each case, it's fentanyl possession and stolen handguns. And this is almost everything we do right now.
How much does Measure 110 have to do with it?
Measure 110 has everything to do with it.
Ferguson said because Measure 110 reduced possession for small amounts of drugs, including oxycodone, the drug business has flourished.
The fentanyl pills are counterfeit OxyContin pills. And by decriminalizing that, it's basically legitimized criminal organizations, and the drug possession, use, and sale is just rampant with very little consequences, and it's taken away our tools as police officers to sort of interdict that.
Reported drug offenses in Portland dropped from 880 the year before Measure 110 went into effect to 364 the year after. Police still do have some tools, and Ferguson was involved in a bust last June in which investigators found 500 fentanyl pills along with 44 firearms, 2 of which were machine guns, and 1,000 grams of methamphetamine. Oregon has long been a favorite distribution hub for drug cartels in Mexico who seem to like the I-5 corridor. It's possible that the passage of Measure 110 came at the same time that cartels were increasing their distribution of fentanyl, making it easier for users and dealers in Oregon. 2 months ago, the DEA took down a ring of 12 people accused.
All right, you see that? So he says it has everything, the officer said it has everything to do with Measure 110. And at the end of this video, he says, no, it's not because of COVID. It's not because of the pandemic. Because you know how the left likes to use the pandemic as an excuse for everything? If it's not COVID, it's Russia. If it's not Russia, it's COVID's fault. So, no, it's not because of the pandemic. It has everything to do with this stupid measure that passed by nearly 60% of voters. 60%. Nearly 6% voted for this. This has created a huge issue for law enforcement. Because like the cartels, look, those people are not stupid. The drug cartels, they're not idiots. They're actually very smart. They pay attention to stuff like this. That's why there's so many drugs going to that state and going to Portland, because they have lessened the consequences for people who have possession of drugs. I can carry a small amount of drugs in Oregon, and I could sell it and not get in trouble for it. You know, so drug dealers, gang members, cartels, things like that, they take notice of that stuff. That's why you're seeing such a huge inflow of fentanyl to that state. And that's not the only place that has problems, but right now I'm just focusing on Oregon and the things that they've done, which have made it much easier for this type of activity to take place. So, and check this out. The state also reallocated $100 million from the cannabis tax fund for drug treatment programs to increase treatment effectiveness. The measure was funded by Chan Zuckerberg, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, American Civil Liberties Union, and Drug Policy Action, a group affiliated with George Soros. Supporters of the measure said that it would make drug treatment more humane and help manage addictions. So, one major flaw in the law is most people charged usually ignore the citation and don't enroll in drug treatment programs. Since the passing of Measure 110 up until the end of May, police have written 2,576 tickets for drug possession. 75% led to convictions because the perpetrator never came to court. This means that many of the drug addicts never took advantage of the rehab programs available. When the law passed, many left-wing groups touted Portland's decriminalization of hard drugs as a model for the rest of the nation. Scary stuff right there. So, according to Dwight Holton, CEO of Lines for Life, only 116 people have called the help hotline provided by the state to avoid their ticket. He told Fox that 66 of those only did so to avoid their ticket. He said an additional 26 of those people were already in rehab services. So, you see that Mark Zuckerberg's wife and George Soros are both involved with some of this. Zuckerberg, we saw what they did, what the Zuckerbergs did with the Zuckbucks in the 2020 election, which led to a lot of, get out the vote efforts in favor of Democrats, heavily Democrat-favored cities, rule changes and swing states and things like that. And George Soros, we already know about George Soros. The guy is an absolute menace to society. So, anytime George Soros is involved with anything, you know it's going to be bad. George Soros has no regard for human life. The guy knows what he's doing. He's not doing this to be more humane. He's doing this to cause chaos in America, and that's exactly what's happening. I don't live in Portland. I don't live anywhere near Portland. I've never been to Portland. Now, I used to want to go there. You know, it used to seem like a nice place to visit, but I have no desire to go to the city of Portland. And now it seems like this, what's happening in Portland is starting to spread across the state. And actually, I heard that from somebody, that these things that are happening in Portland are affecting other places around the state. So, in the state of Oregon. So it's very scary. So yeah, I just want everybody to be mindful of what is going on. The reason why I'm doing this video is to show you what's happening in these Democrat-run cities and what they plan to do across the country. That is very scary. I don't want to live in a place where homeless people are walking around, people are shooting up drugs downtown, scared to go to work. I don't want, women scared to go to work, having to board up their windows. I don't want to live in a place like that. So that's why it's important to get out there and vote for the most conservative candidate and somebody who's tough and who's, a law and order candidate. I'm not talking about voting for runners. I'm talking about voting for people who want to uphold the rule of law and don't pass stupid measures that allow for these type of things to happen. It's just lunacy. So anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up, and I will continue to focus on things going on in these cities, and I will likely move on to Seattle pretty soon and shed some light on there. There are some things that I have found that are very interesting. So keep an eye out for these videos coming up. Thanks for listening, everybody. Like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Take care.